Panther people, what up? Let's talk about the must-win game on Saturday. Are Panther fans going to be getting a nice present from Santa or a disgusting piece of coal with poop on it? I watch Panthers Post and Phil Perkins. Thanks for joining. Sorry about not having a reaction episode to that loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Shout out to Franco Harris, one of the first running backs I ever looked up when I was trying to learn how to play the game. Shout out to him in such an illustrious career and illustrious life. Carolina Panthers owner, Pittsburgh native, David Tepper put out a statement on his loss. So all thoughts and prayers with the fan base and also, most importantly, his family and friends. Speaking of family, you know, if y'all have kids, they go through a bit of sleep regression, so bit hard to do that reaction video to the Steelers, and I kind of have a 24-hour rule once that game was done. We're moving forward to Detroit, which could be, I'm glad I have this jacket, which could be, from what I've read, the coldest game in Charlotte on record. Some very nice viewer offered me tickets to the Pittsburgh Carolina game last week. I turned it down because obviously, again, family. However, you know, in an alternate universe, I would have gone to that game. I probably would have stayed and would have held a how to stay warm seminar for all you folks down in North and South Carolina on how to stay warm in an open air field during a football game for multiple hours. Because Canadians kind of good at that. So the Panthers find themselves in basically the same situation they found themselves in last week because everyone who had to win didn't. The Bucks, Falcons, and Panthers all lost, so they're all in the exact same spot. The Bucks are taking on the Cardinals, who have Trace McSorley starting on Christmas night. And then the Atlanta Falcons are taking on somebody, I don't care, doesn't matter. But the Panthers taking on a red-hot Detroit Lions team, trying to be the first team ever to punch their ticket to the playoffs after starting the season at 1-6. And they're playing better than a lot of teams right now. Jared Goff looking like the guy that they traded for. Maybe not necessarily looking like the bridge quarterback that many thought he would be, that they're maybe drafting Bryce Young or CJ Stroud or Will Levis in this draft because thanks to the LA Rams sucking cack, the Detroit Lions picking, I think, 4th overall right now, prime QB position. They got to find themselves again. As I mentioned before, you know, maybe it's something about the NFC or AFC North. You know, the Panthers seem to forget their identity. We talked about defend the bank. We talked about pound the rock. You know, 240 yards rushing with Seattle against the Seattle Seahawks at Lumen Field. But against the Ravens, they rushed 11 times. And against the Pittsburgh Steelers, they rushed for, 24 yards, the 4th least amount of rushing yards they had in the last decade or so. And so they got to find that again. Whether you're getting stacked boxes or not, you just got to pound the rock. Like, this is a Detroit Lions team. Since they hired Campbell as their head coach to be, you know, you saw in his press conference, the guy's talking about biting kneecaps. He's talking about ripping throats out with his bare hands and then eating it and guzzling the blood, you know. The team's identity is their head coach's identity. They're badass. They're Detroit tough, if you want to call them that. Put it on a shirt. It's going to be a tough matchup. Run the ball. Don't let Sam Darnold try to win the game for you because it's not going to happen. Now, I know Sam played all right against the Pittsburgh Steelers. He had some passes where I was like, okay. You know, he found the open receivers. He had really impressive throws there, but I just don't want him in that position because, you know, a 4-pick Sam Darnold game is, you know, just around the corner. So Deontay Foreman, pissed, already talking to reporters, saying, you know, they kind of forgot their identity. They got to get back to it against Detroit. Chuba Hubbard, Blackshear, give it to those guys. You know, hard blocking, Ian Thomas, Tommy Tremble, just, you know, fire with fire. This is a Detroit Lions team that they're nasty. They're just like their head coach. And so you got to attack their defense like that. So last week, the New York Jets, led by Zach Wilson, who the Jets, you know, jettisoned Sam Darnold to the Carolina Panthers for in order for them to draft a 2nd overall. He looked okay against the Detroit defense, but it's more so the Jets defense, which is a very highly ranked defense in the NFL. And the Detroit Lions moved the ball pretty well against them. And whether it was, you know, with the run, with Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift, you know, kind of like a mirror image of what the Carolina Panthers have in their backfield. But then they also have receiving threats that deliver. Now, DJ Chark most likely going to be covered by J.C. Horn, so you can kind of nullify him for the game. But you got guys like Jameson Williams at Alabama who sat the year out because of an injury. He's back. He's a burner, like a Jalen Waddle type. And then you got Amon-Ra St. Brown out of USC, who's also a really good receiver. So we've seen in the past, and we saw just last week, you know, Keith Taylor admittedly said that was the worst game of his life, but he got picked apart by Deontay Washington and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like, he just couldn't lay a hand on him, nothing. And so we're hearing that CJ Henderson should be good to go if healthy on Saturday. And, because JC's going to need some help. He's going to do his job. He's going to lock down DJ Chark, whoever the number one receiver is. It's those other guys who are the biggest threats against this defensive secondary. Jeremy Chin still getting back from injury. He told the Panthers.com that he has to use his other weapons after kind of circumventing and, compensating for his hammy weakness, because he's been out with a hamstring injury. And so he's kind of working around it. Not necessarily something you want to hear out of one of your captains and one of the leaders on your team. But the defensive secondary needs to come together. CJ Henderson, replacing Keith Taylor isn't exactly, an upward move, really. Like, you can't get any worse than last week. I'm sure Keith, you've given him another chance. I'm sure he'll step up with under Coach Steve Wilkes' tutelage. But I think they all got to step up if you're going to cover all these receivers, because Jared Goff is kind of dealing right now. The Falcons are playing the Ravens, who are not starting Lamar Jackson. I think it's going to be Huntley, again. But you got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on an Arizona Cardinals team that they should beat. They should beat them. It's going to be at Arizona, Christmas Day, 8:20, with their third-string quarterback. You would think the Bucs have some self-respect that they could win that game. And if the Panthers somehow lose this game against Detroit after losing what should have been, what I thought was an easier win against the Pittsburgh Steelers that are kind of in transition right now, whereas the Lions are just kind of a couple more pieces away to be somewhat competitive in the NFC North, I think that could be a wrap. And they go to New Orleans and they go to Tampa, with Tampa trying to, they can either have the division locked up by Week 18, or they're still fighting for it, whether it's against the Panthers or against the Falcons. And so that's not a gimme either in the last game of the season, which normally is. I just think the Lions are peaking at the right time. I think that if the Panthers won against Pittsburgh with that winning formula, I think I would have been more confident heading into this game. It's exciting to know that we have a game of consequence on Saturday. It's gonna make my Christmas anyways. It's just nice to cheer for a team that is fighting for something, even though they have a losing record. But I think the Lions are just too hot right now. And I think they have many options on offense that I don't think our young defense at this moment can take care of. And, J.C. Horn can't cover everybody. And so the way I see it, unless Brian Burns just wreaks havoc, which he definitely has the potential to do exactly that, Hungary not getting a sack after last week, I see the Panthers losing this game 28-25. I'm going to be here Christmas Eve. I'm not cooking. I got no plans, cooking-wise. I'm with my family. I'm going to watch National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. Actually, in the comments below, let me know, what is your favorite Christmas movie? Hanukkah movie? Kwanzaa movie? Do they have Kwanzaa movies? Let me know. And I'm going to see you guys Saturday night. Eggnog and rum in tow. See you guys.